Hey guys, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a complete JSON RESTful API using PHP and MySQL as our database. So this may be a long video, or I might break it up into a few different videos, I'm not sure yet. But what I want to be able to do is to make a request to a URL, for instance, let's say whatever our site is /API/customers. And we want to be able to get an array of JSON objects returned, which will be able to use in virtually any application with any programming language that can work with HTTP requests. Okay, whether it's a PHP application, Ruby on Rails, Angular JS, whatever it may be. All right, so our data will be stored in MySQL, and we'll be able to fetch the data. In addition to that, we'll be able to fetch a single customer. We'll be able to add a customer, update, and delete customers. All right, now to help us with this, we're going to use the SlimPHP framework, which is just that. It's a very lightweight PHP framework. It's a dispatcher that receives an HTTP request, invokes a callback routine, and returns a response. Okay, it doesn't include any fancy database model wrappers or anything like that. So we're going to be creating some custom code using PDO, which is an interface for working with MySQL and other databases. All right, so this is going to be kind of an advanced tutorial, but I will do my best to explain things as we move along, and you're going to learn a lot from it. Okay, we're going to work with a lot of different technologies. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about what you're going to need to get started. Okay, so you're going to need some kind of PHP server, Apache server with PHP and MySQL. I would suggest XAMPP or XAMPP. Gives you Apache, MariaDB, which is a MySQL drop-in, PHP, Perl, and some other technologies. And it's available for Windows, Linux, and Mac. You can also use WAMP. There's MAMP for Mac. If you want to just set up a LAMP stack on a Linux box or something like that, that's fine too. Okay, you just have to have basically a LAMP stack running somewhere. Alright, so get that installed. I already have it set up. I do have a video on my channel showing you how to install it. It's really easy. Just download it, go ahead and run the installer. Alright, we're also going to need Composer, which is a dependency manager for PHP, and the only reason we need this is to install the Slim framework. So if we go to download, and there's a few different ways you can install this. You can install it through the command line using a PHP command. You can install it through curl. I'm on Windows, so if you're on Windows, I would suggest using the exe file here. I actually already have it installed, but if you go ahead and save that and install it, you should be able to access the Composer command from your command line. Alright, now the next thing that you're going to need is some kind of utility to make HTTP requests. Okay, I would suggest using the REST-easy extension for Chrome. It's really easy to use, and it's really simple to install. Just go to the Chrome store and go ahead and install it. I already have it installed, so that's why it says Launch App. Alright, but we'll get to that later on. And then finally, I just want to mention my Learn Top 10 Frameworks in PHP by Building Projects. This video comes from, not directly from this course, but from a chapter that's just like it, that uses the Slim framework, and we create a REST API. So if you like this video, I would suggest checking that out. Okay, we use all the popular PHP frameworks. Alright, so enough talk. Let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to do is create a folder to work in, and we're going to create that on our in our XAMPP installation, which is in my C drive, XAMPP, and htdocs. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and create a folder, and let's call this, we'll just call it Slim App. Alright, I have this Slim folder. This is actually my dev folder for this project. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and open up a command line in Windows. Let's go ahead and navigate to that folder. So I'm going to go to, let's see, XAMPP, and let's go to htdocs/slimapp. Alright, so what we want to do here is we want to install Slim using Composer. So if we go to, let's go to the user guide, and if we click on installation right here, we want to run this command, this composer require. So we're going to say, composer require slim/slim, and then the version. So we're going to say 3.0 for now. All right. Whoops, I said compose. Should be composer. So we'll go ahead and fix that. All right, so you can see that it says composer.json has been created. Okay, so what I'm going to do is open up my editor. We're going to be using Visual Studio Code, which is a really nice open source editor. And I'm going to open that folder, which is Slim App. Alright, and you can see that it created a composer.json file, which just contains some JSON, has this require with Slim, okay, and then the version. And then anything we install with Composer is going to show up in this object here. Alright, now if you're familiar with Node.js and NPM, this is very similar to your package.json file. Alright, you can put dependencies in here, and then you can run Composer, and it's pretty much like running npm install with Node.js. Alright, and then your vendor folder is similar to your Node modules folder. That's where all of your everything you install is going to go. Alright, so that's where SlimPHP is going to live. Alright, so next thing we want to do is create our public folder. Okay, so I'm going to create a folder called public, and we're also going to have a folder called source, or src. Alright, inside public we're going to create a file called index.php. Okay, and that's going to be our entry file. So from here, let's go to the Slim homepage, and there's actually a really good example here on how we can get started. So we're going to copy this, and we'll go ahead and paste that in there. Alright, so I'm going to take a shot at explaining what's going on here. Alright, so when we create a RESTful API, we create routes that deal with requests and response objects. Alright, that's what we're doing in these first two lines. We're bringing in that request and response object. So every Slim application, every route is given these two objects as arguments to the callback routine. Alright, Slim supports PSR7, which is the PHP standard for HTTP messaging, and that's actually a really great approach for writing web applications. Alright, next we're including autoload.php, which is created by Composer and allows us to refer to the Slim dependencies. Alright, this line here is creating the main Slim object, so this is what we can use to create our routes. You can see here we're creating a route for a GET request. Now, if you are familiar with Node.js and Express, this works very similar. Okay, so in Express we would create our app using the Express function, and then we'd use app.get, create our route, and then our callback with the request and response. Okay, this is virtually the same thing, just in PHP. Alright, now our route in this case is going to be /hello/name. Now name is dynamic, that could be anything. And then down here we're creating a variable called name and setting it to whatever is passed in here. And we can use this request get attribute. And then down here we're taking the response, we're calling get body, and we're going to just write to the screen hello, and then whatever that variable is. Okay, and then of course we have to return the response, and we have to run app run to actually make it work. Alright, now one thing I want to change here is the require to vendor. Since we're in the public folder, we need to go out one, so we're going to just put .. right there. Alright, and then I think that should work, so let's go ahead and save that. And then what we'll do is go to http localhost/slimapp/public/index.php, then we're going to do actually, yeah, slash index PHP slash hello slash Brad. All right, and we get hello Brad. Okay, and whatever we pass in here is what's going to show. If we put world, we get hello world, because it's taking this right here, okay, putting it in the variable and then printing it out. So that's working. Now before we start to write some more code, there's some things that I want to fix. Okay, so for one thing, I don't want to have to include index.php. I don't want to have to include the file name. So there's a simple solution using a .htaccess file that we can use to get rid of that. Also, I don't want to have to go to the public folder. Okay, so we're going to add a virtual host in Apache, okay, to fix that. So let's start with the htaccess file, and if we go to the documentation, if we go to the user guide, and let's see, is it an installation or maybe first application? Yeah, right here. Okay, so this is what we want to put in our .htaccess file. So I'm going to just copy that, and then that's going to go in the public folder. So we're going to say new file .htaccess, and let's just paste that in. And this is going to allow us to rewrite it so that we don't have to include the index PHP. So let's go ahead and save that. All right, now to add a virtual host to Apache, which sounds complicated, but it's really not. We're going to open up our XAMPP folder and go to Apache. Now, if you're not using XAMPP, you just want to go to wherever your Apache folder is. And then conf, extra, and then we want this httpd vhosts.conf file. All right, so let's go ahead and I'll open that up with Sublime. All right, let's take a look at it. We're going to go down to the bottom here where you see these virtual host tags. Now, if you haven't edited this file, you probably have a number sign right here. It's probably commented out, this line. You want to get rid of that, okay, so that that's not commented out. And you probably don't have this either, but you probably want to add it. This just makes sure that if we go to localhost, it's going to load the root of the web server. But what we're going to do is add, I'm going to copy that, we're going to add to that, and we're going to say for this document root, we want it to be htdocs/slimapp/public. All right, so we want to be able to access this location from whatever we put here. I'm going to say slimapp. All right, so when we access HTTP slimapp, it should load whatever's in here, which is our application. So let's go ahead and save that. Now there's one other thing we have to do in order for this to work, this server name. We have to add it to our host file. All right, so what I'm going to do is you need to run Notepad or some kind of text editor as administrator. All right, so you can't see it on this screen, but I'm going to my Notepad and I'm going to right click and say run as administrator. All right, and then what we'll do is open up the host file. So I'm going to go to open, and then the location of this is going to be in your C drive, Windows, System 32, drivers, etc. And we're going to change this right here from text documents to all files, and you'll see that there's a host file. So we're going to open that up, and then down at the bottom here, you probably don't have all this crap, but what you're going to want to do is just add in your loopback address, so 127.0.0.1, and then slimapp, or whatever you decided to use as the server name. So let's go ahead and save that and close it up. And if you didn't open it as administrator, you won't be able to save it, so make sure you do that. And then finally, we're going to restart Apache. So this is my XAMPP panel. We're going to go ahead and stop it. Okay, then we'll start it up again. And now if we go to HTTP, and we want to go to slimapp/hello/world, And there we go. So now we can access our application with SlimApp, okay, and then whatever routes we create. So let's go ahead and close that up. Okay, so back to our programming, our regularly scheduled programming. Next thing we're going to do is in our source folder, I'm going to create a folder called routes. Alright, and then we're only going to have one route file, which is for customers. So we're going to say new file, customers.php. Alright, now as far as the structure of your application, that's completely up to you. You don't have to do it this way. This is just the way that I like to do it for this type of application. You might have just a single routes.php file, or you might call it something else. It's really all preference. Alright, now in this file, we're just going to require this in our index file and put all of our customer routes. So let's go right above the app run. We'll say customer routes, and we're just going to require, and let's do /source/routes/customers.php. Okay, that'll include that file. And then what I'm going to do is copy. I want to copy these. I want to bring the request and response in. So we'll paste that in the customers file and also this app variable. Alright, and then what we'll do is create a route to get all customers. And I realize we haven't created the database yet. That's fine. I just want to make sure that we can get the actual route working. So let's do app get. Okay, and then the route that we want here is going to be /API/customers. Okay, and then that's going to take a callback. And let's say request response. And then in here for now, let's just do echo customers just to make sure that the route works. So we'll save it and let's go to SlimApp/API/customers, and we get customers. Good. So we know that the route is working. Now we have to deal with the database. So let's open up PHP MyAdmin, which comes with XAMPP, so localhost/PHP MyAdmin. And we're going to create a new database called SlimApp. Okay, we're just going to have one table in this database called customers. Okay, and I'm not sure the exact number of columns. Let's just say 8. Alright, so as far as fields, we're going to have an ID, which will be an integer. We'll say 11 length. And we're going to mark that as auto increment and primary key. So just click go, and that's our ID field. Okay, we're also going to have a first name field, last name, what else did I do? Phone, email, address, city, and state. Alright, and then these are all going to be varchars, which is variable character. Alright, and let's say 255 for all of these. And I've already done this, that's why these drop downs are showing up for me. Alright, so that looks good. Let's go ahead and click on save. And now we have a customers table with these fields. So what I want to do is insert some data. So I'm going to click on insert. We don't need to put an ID, that's auto increment. Let's just add some data here. We'll say John Doe. Email address, address, city, date. Okay, we'll put one more. Say Sam Smith, phone number, address, I'll say 33 Birch Road, city, we'll say Miami, Florida. Alright, so let's go ahead and click go. And now we have 2 customers in our database. Alright, so now what we want to do is we want to fetch these customers and output them as JSON, okay, for our API. Now, as I said before, SlimApp doesn't have any native database wrappers or anything like that, so we have to kind of create our own. So we're going to use PDO, which is PHP Data Objects, and it's an interface to interact with MySQL. It's an alternative to MySQLi, and you can also use it with Postgres and a couple other relational databases. Now what I'm going to do is create a config folder in my source folder, and we're going to create a file in there called db.php. Okay, and this is where we want to put our database parameters and our connection. Okay, so let's go ahead and say PHP, and we're going to create a class called db, and let's create our properties. Okay, so we'll say, private db host, and we'll set that to localhost. Okay, let's do our user, so we'll say db user, and we'll set that to whatever your database user is. I kept mine as root. Okay, then we'll do the password, so db pass, and I'm going to put my password in. Super secure password. And then the db name, which is SlimApp. Alright, so there's the parameters. Now we need to connect to our database. So what we'll do is say public function connect, and we're going to create a MySQL connect string. Okay, and this is needed for PDO, and I guess I should pull up the PDO documentation just so to kind of show you what I'm doing here. Let's see. Connections. Alright, so if you look right here, we're creating this string here. There's MySQL, which is the type of database, the host, the DB name, user, pass. Alright, so let's go ahead and add that in here. We're going to say MySQL host. Now host, we're going to use up here our DB host value. So let's say this DB host. Okay, when we're using object-oriented programming, when you're using a class property, you need to use this. All right, and then we're going to do, let's see, DB name equals this DB name. And let's see, what else are we doing? So that's the connection string, and then we're going to say DB connection. We're going to set that to new PDO, and then we're going to pass in that connection string. So MySQL underscore connect underscore str. Okay, and this new PDO, you can see we're just putting together this. Okay, so we have the connection string, then we need the username and the password. So let's go ahead and say this DB user and this DB pass. Whoop, semicolon there. Okay, so that's the connection string. Now I just want to set a couple attributes here. If we go back to the PDO documentation, you'll see we have this set attribute. And let's see, is this what I want? All right, so I just want to set error mode, set the error mode, error reporting, and then the error mode exception right here. So I want to set those two. So I'm going to say DB connection, and then we want to say set attribute, and we're just going to pass in PDO :: adder underscore error mode, and then we just want to do error mode underscore exception. Alright, so that should do it. And then we just want to return the connection. And that should be it for this file. Okay, so our database we now have the properties, and we have the connect method. So let's go ahead and save that. And then what we need to do is include that in our index file. So let's go to index.php, and let's go right under the auto load, and we're going to say require, and we're going to go /source/config/db. Alright, db.php. And let's save that and make sure we have no errors, which we do. Unexpected DB connection. Let's see what that is. Oh, I must have forgot the I forgot the semicolon on the end here. That should be like that. Alright, so let's save it. Alright, so now we're getting no errors, which is good. Now everything else we do should be in this customers file. Okay, we're now ready to create all of our customer routes and fetch our data, and then create our post and put and delete. So we'll start with this route here. We want this to get all the customers in the database. So first thing we'll do is create a variable called SQL, and let's set that to the query that we want, which will be select all from customers. And then we're going to do a try catch block here. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll get the database object. So we'll create a variable called DB. We're going to set that to new DB. All right, and this is obviously coming from our class, our DB class. Then we want to call the connect. Okay, so we want to say, let's do DB equals DB connect, and that'll connect to our database. Let's save that. Let's see, what's this? Oh, I forgot to put the parentheses and then the PDO exception. Alright, so PDO exception. Now, if there's any errors, what we want to do, that should be exception. What we'll want to do is just output the error as JSON. So we're going to echo, and in here we'll put error, the error text, and from here we're going to take that E value, that exception, and we're going to call get message. That'll give us whatever error message there is. Alright, so if we save that, use of undefined constant string assumed MySQL connect string. Alright, MySQL connect string. Oh, I forgot the money sign. Alright, so no more errors. Thank you. So now what we want to do is create our statement. Okay, when we're working with PDO, we need to create statements. Now there's a few benefits to using prepared statements. One is that the query only needs to be parsed once, but it can be executed multiple times with the same or with different parameters. Also, the parameters don't need to be quoted. It's just a simple and secure way to interact with the database. Alright, so what we need to do is create a variable for our statement, and it's the norm to use this stmt. Alright, we're going to set this to our DB object, and then we're going to call query, and then we just want to pass in that SQL variable that we created up here, which contains our query. Next thing we're going to do is create a variable called customers, and we're going to set that to our statement, and then we're going to call fetch all, and then in here we want to pass in PDO fetch underscore obj for object. Okay, now you can fetch arrays, you can fetch objects. If you look at the documentation, it explains all this stuff. Okay, I don't have time to go over PDO as a whole, but the documentation is pretty clear and easy to understand. All right, then what we're going to do is set that DB object to null. Okay, now remember we want this to be a JSON API, so we're going to say echo, and then we're going to wrap it in JSON encode. JSON underscore encode. Okay, and in here we're going to pass in customers. So let's go ahead and save that and reload, and now you can see that it's outputting our customers in a JSON array. And just to show you, let's open up REST Easy, and we'll go ahead and put in our URL, which is slimapp/customers /API/customers. Okay, we want it to be a GET request, and we'll click send, and you can see we get the data. We also get a response of 200, which means everything's okay. Alright, so we could now make this request in any application with any programming language, and we could fetch our customers. So next thing we want to do is get a single customer. Okay, so this is going to be kind of similar, so I'm going to just copy this, and we'll paste that in, and let's say get single customer. Now the route we're going to change to API/customer/ and then we're going to have the ID. Okay, make sure you wrap that in curly braces. Now to get that ID, we're going to go here and we're going to create a variable called ID and set that to request get attribute, and we want to get the ID. Okay, now for the SQL, we're going to edit this to select all from customers where ID is equal to ID, okay, which is coming from the URL. Now down here, we're going to keep this same thing. We're going to use the object. We're going to connect, and let's see, we're going to have the statement. We're going to, let's change this to customer singular, and let's see, we can still do the fetch all. That's fine. That's fine. Let's take this S off, and then that should give us a single customer. So let's save it. We'll go back here. Let's change this to API customer /1. Send, and now you can see that it just gets us John Doe. Okay, if we change that to a 2, that gets us Sam Smith. So we can now get individual customers. Next thing we want to do is we want to be able to add a customer, which is going to be a little more complicated. But let's go ahead and copy this. Okay, we'll change that to add customer. Now this is going to be a post request, so we want to change get to post. And we want to go API/customer/add. All right, now we need to get the parameters. Usually these would be through a form. So the way that we do that is, let's get the first name. So we'll say first name equals, and then instead of get attribute, that's what you use for the URL. If you want to get the actual parameters, then you use get param. So get param first name. All right, and then you're going to want to do that for all the fields. I'm going to just paste this in just to save some time. Okay, so first name, last name, phone, email, address, city, and state. All right, and then for the SQL, we're going to do an insert. So let's do insert into customers. Okay, and then we want first name. What else? Phone, email, city, and state. All right, then we want to say values. Put that on a new line, and then in here we're going to use this colon, first name, last name. Actually, I'll just copy these. Okay, we just want to put a colon before each one here. And these work kind of like placeholders. All right, and then down here in the try block, we want to go, let's see, we're going to just get rid of this stuff. And then we're going to do statement equals db prepare, and then pass in that SQL. And then what we want to do is bind each parameter. All right, so to do that, we say statement, and then do bind param. Okay, we want to bind colon first name to first name, okay, which is coming from the variable up here, which comes from the form that's submitted to this route. All right, now we need to do this for all the fields. So again, I'm just going to paste this in. All right, and then we need to execute it. So we're going to say statement execute, and then let's just echo a message. Okay, it has to be in JSON content. So we're going to echo notice, say text, and we'll say customer added. All right, that should do it. So let's save it. And now we're going to go back to Rest Easy, and we're going to change this to API customer/add. We're going to change it to a post request. Now in the headers, we need to tell it that we want this to be JSON content. So we're going to choose content type, application/JSON, and then in the body, I'm just going to paste this in. It's just a JSON object with the first name, last name, and so on. Make sure you have double quotes around the key and the values. And then we'll click send. We get 200 OK, and we get customer added. And now if we go back to, let's see, if we can just look in the database and reload. And there it is, Brad Traversy. Okay, that's what we just added through Rest Easy. So we can now make post requests, and we can add data to the database. Again, we could do this through any type of application we want, as long as we can make post requests. All right, next thing we want to do is we want to be able to update customers. So I'm going to copy the add customer because it's pretty similar. Say update. Now when you do an update, you want to make a put request. So we're going to change post to put. And then we're going to go customer slash update slash ID. Okay, we want to get the ID using the get attribute. So ID equals request get attribute ID. We still want to get all this stuff. And then for the SQL, that's going to change. I'm actually going to paste that in because it's kind of long. Okay, so we're just saying update customers, and then we're going to set first name to first name, last name to last name, and so on. And then just make sure you have the where ID equals ID. All right, and then down here, same thing. We're going to do our prepare. We're going to bind the parameters, statement execute, and then we'll just change the message to customer updated. Okay, we'll save that. Let's go back to REST easy. Let's say we want to do API customer update /1. Change this to a put request. And let's see, let's just change the first name. We'll say we want to change that to Tom. Alright, so we'll send. We get customer updated. Now if we go and look in the database, John should change to Tom. Oh, you know what? We have to include the rest of the fields as well, I guess. Huh, I didn't think we had to do that. Alright, so we'll just go back and paste that in. Okay, so it should now be Tom Doe with the rest of the information. There we go. Alright, so last thing we want to be able to do is delete customers. So let's go ahead and let's see, I'm just going to copy, let's copy the get single customer. Paste that in, and we'll say delete customer. This is going to be a delete request, so we're going to change that to delete. We want API /customer /delete /ID. Okay, we're going to get the ID through get attribute, and then let's say delete from customers where ID equals ID. Okay, we're gonna, let's see, we're gonna do our prepare, so statement equals db prepare, pass in the SQL. Okay, and then we just want to execute. And let's see, get rid of that. And we're just gonna send a message. We'll say customer deleted. Alright, let's save it. Go back to REST easy, and let's say customer /delete / we'll get rid of 1, which is Tom Doe. We can clear all this out. And let's set this to delete. And send. We get customer deleted. Let's look in the database. Reload. And Tom Doe is now gone. Alright, so we now have a full RESTful API. We can do CRUD operations on our customers in our database. Now I may do another video on building a front end so that we can work with this API, just like I did with the Node.js RESTful API. But I'm not sure about that. I'll see what I can do. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this and you learned a little something about Slim, about PDO, and some of the other things we went over. And if you liked it, please give it a like, please subscribe, leave a comment, whatever you can do is great. Alright, so thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.